Bonjour mes gars et bienvenue à la leçon sur les adjectifs possessifs. Okay, hi guys and welcome to the lesson on possessive adjectives. This is my first time doing something like this, so you sort of have to bear with me. Hopefully it will go pretty smoothly. So during this lesson, I expect that you will be taking notes and following along. Okay. Possessive adjectives is the second grammar point in our lesson here. Okay, so here we go. There are two ways to show possession in French. The first way is with possessive adjectives, and since you can't always use possessive adjectives, there is also possession with de. Okay, so two ways. We're going to talk about possessive adjectives first. So what are possessive adjectives? Well, as their name suggests, they are adjectives that express ownership or possession. So in your textbook, you have a handy-dandy table of the possessive adjectives. You see the masculine singular, the feminine singular, the plural, and then on the far right, the English equivalent. So I will go through these for pronunciation so you can get an idea of what they sound like. Mon, ma, mes, ton, ta, tes, son, sa, ses, notre, nos, votre, vos, leur. So as you can tell from the last one, in spoken French, you can't tell the difference between the singular and the plural form, but context will tell you which one you're using. Of course, in written French, you would know which one you would be using because there's an S on the plural. So also note that ton, ta, and tes are the familiar and singular versions of your, while votre, and vos are the formal or plural forms of the possessive adjective your. Okay, so just like tu is the familiar subject pronoun, right? Ton, ta, and tes are the familiar your. Okay, and just as vous is the formal subject pronoun for your, it sort of goes in the same vein for the possessive adjectives. Okay? All right, so where do we place these? Well, just like in English, possessive adjectives are placed before the noun or nouns they modify. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few examples. Don't worry about necessarily which possessive adjective we're using, but where it's placed. Okay, so if you want to say, this is my father, okay, you are going to say, whoops, my pen here. Okay, you'll say, c'est mon père. Okay, so just like in English, this is my dad. Okay, so you have your noun, père, with the possessive adjective. Oops, I wrote that in the wrong spot, guys. I'm sorry. C'est mon père. Okay, so you have your possessive adjective coming right before the noun it modifies. My dad. Okay, I'm going to give you one to try here. So what if you wanted to say, our sister is beautiful? Our sister is beautiful. Okay. For our, you may have guessed already, that you would use notre. Okay. So why don't you try to create that sentence? Okay. So if you haven't figured it out yet, hit pause, and then you can check when you have it. Okay. So it's notre sœur est belle. Okay. So you have your possessive adjective coming right before the noun it modifies. Okay. And then of course, belle agrees with sœur in number and gender. Okay. All right. So how do we decide which possessive adjective we want to use? Okay. Well, in French, unlike in English, possessive adjectives agree in number and gender with the nouns they modify. Okay, and that last part is really important. They agree in number and gender with the noun they modify. Okay, so in other words, the gender and number has nothing to do with the subject. It has everything to do with the noun being owned or possessed. Okay? So if I, as Mademoiselle Grushala, wanted to say, this is my brother, it doesn't matter what gender I am. It doesn't matter that I'm a girl. Okay? It matters what the gender of brother is, because that's the noun that's being possessed. Okay? So, because frère, brother, is masculine and singular, you will always have a masculine and singular possessive adjective. So, for my, that would be mon, right? That's the masculine singular possessive adjective for my. Okay? It will always be mon frère. It will never, ever be ma frère. So let me give you one to try out. What if you wanted to say your mother? And let's use a familiar your. Okay, give it a try. What do you think? Your mother. Okay, hope you have something. So we have mère is the noun, right? And as we know, mère is feminine and it's singular. So we need the feminine singular form of the familiar possessive adjective. So that would be ta. Ta mère. Your mother. Okay? It will never be ton mère. Okay? It will always be ta mère. Okay? Let's try one last one. What if we want to say your grandparents? And we either want to mean like, you're talking to the rest of the class and say your grandparents collectively. Or we could be talking to maybe someone like Mr. Rohn and asking about your, Mr. Rohn's, grandparents. Okay. So, what do you think? Try to figure it out. Okay, so your grands-parents with S, grands-parents on both. Okay, because it's plural. And we want the either plural to refer to like everyone in the classes, your grandparents, or for a formal address. Okay, either way, grands-parents is plural, right? So the only option we have is vos. Okay, because that's the formal plural. Okay, so it really doesn't matter what gender grand-parent is. It's masculine, but it doesn't really matter because it's plural, and there's only one plural form. So it's kind of nice. You can't really screw it up as long as you have the plural form. Okay. All right. So this next part is a little tricky, but the tricky part really is remembering to do it. Okay. So for feminine singular nouns that begin with a vowel or vowel sound, we want to use the masculine singular possessive adjective. Seems kind of odd. Why would we use the masculine singular if it's a feminine noun? Well, it's a pronunciation thing. One of the things that a lot of us like about French is that it sounds pretty. Well, this is the reason why it sounds pretty, is because they make these rules that drive us nuts, but it makes French sound a little bit better. So let me give you an example of this. Okay, so if we have the word friend, and we want to have it be a female friend. Okay, so we want to say ami, right, the e, and we want to say your friend, your female friend. Okay, so you would think that because you have a feminine singular noun that you would want to use ta. Okay, well, ta ami doesn't sound good. The French don't like that glottal stop. They want something that glides a little bit more. So they're going to use the masculine singular possessive adjective. Okay, so instead of using ta, they are going to use ton. So it flows better. Ton ami. Okay, sounds better than ta ami. Ton ami. Okay. All right, so let me give you one to try. What if we wanted to say my female student? My female student. Give it a try. What do you think? Okay, so if you don't have anything yet, that's okay. Just pause it and come back when you're ready. Okay, so étudiante, with that E on there, is the feminine version of student. And instead of using ma, because we start with a vowel, we're going to say mon. We're going to use the masculine singular possessive adjective. So mon étudiante. Okay? Did you get it? I hope so. All right. So this last example I'm going to give you is when you have that vowel sound. Okay? So we want to say her story. Her story. Okay? You may say, well, I don't know the word for story. Well, you do. You've just learned it in a different way. Okay? Story is histoire. Okay? You've learned it as history, but it can also mean story. Okay? All right? So we know that in French, you don't hear that H. You just hear that I. Histoire. Okay? So we need to use the masculine singular possessive adjective, even though we're saying her story. And it's going to be son histoire. Okay? All right, so that's all there is to possessive adjectives. All right, so we're going to move on now to possession with de. Okay. All right, so in French, there is no apostrophe S to express ownership or relationships. Okay, so for example, you can't say leurs sœurs. It doesn't exist in French. Okay, they go the long way around. Okay, so they're going to say it's the sister of Laure. Okay, kind of cumbersome, but that's how it is. Okay, so you're going to use the construction de plus your noun or your proper noun. Okay, so if we want to say this is Laure's sister, as I said, we have to say this is the sister of Laure. So c'est la sœur de Laure. Okay, so the person who's doing the ownership is at the end here after your de. Okay. Okay. So what if we wanted to say this is Michael's dad. This is Michael's dad. How would you say that? Go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so if you don't have something quite yet, hit pause and finish it up and then come back. Okay, so remember that we have to say this is the dad of Michael. Okay, we kind of have to go the long way around. Okay, so c'est le père de, and Michael in French would be Michel, but we're just going to put Michael in here. Okay, c'est le père de Michael, Michel. Okay, so whoever's doing the possessing comes after that de. Okay? All right, I'm going to give you a tricky one now. You're going to use everything that you've learned so far. So you're going to use a possessive adjective, and you're going to use possession with de. Are you ready? Okay. So your sentence is, these are your friend's cousins. These are your friend's cousins. Okay? And the your, we're going to use a familiar your, not a formal your, because we're talking about friends. And your cousins, oh, let's make those masculine. Doesn't really matter, but okay, so try it out. These are your friend's cousins. Okay, if you don't have something yet, that's okay. But go ahead and pause it, and I'm going to help you figure it out. Okay? So, first I'm going to rewrite this in English for you so you can see how we're going here. Okay? So you want to say, these are the cousins of your friend. All right? Okay. So, because we have these are, we can't use c'est because that's singular, right? So we have to use ce sont. Okay. And the cousins, les cousins, because we're using masculine plural. De, of, de, ton ami. Okay. All right. Ce sont les cousins de ton ami. Okay. You could have used also ton ami feminine. Okay. Doesn't matter. But remember that you're still using ton because you have a feminine singular noun that begins with a vowel. Okay, so either one is fine. Did you get it? Good for you if you did. Bravo. Okay, so the last thing that we need to talk about, since we're talking about possession, is contractions with the preposition de. Okay, so when de is followed by a definite article, they're going to contract. Okay, except la. La doesn't contract with de. Okay. So if you want to say of or from, okay, you're going to be using the preposition de. Okay. So as I said, de and la don't contract, so it just is de la. Okay. De plus le is going to contract to give you du. And de plus les is going to contract to give you des. Okay? So we have de la, du, and des. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here where you're going to be using these contractions. Okay? So the first one is l'opinion du grand-père est importante. Okay. L'opinion du grand-père est importante. Okay. So just a quick little review with adjectives. Okay. Important is feminine because it is agreeing with opinion, which is feminine. The opinion is important, right? So any noun that ends in ion is going to be feminine. A little hint for you. Okay? So just a quick little review with that. Okay? But you're saying the opinion of the grandfather is important. So you want to have of the grandfather, right? So grand-père is masculine, so you want le. Okay? So de plus le is contracting to form du. So l'opinion du grand-père. Make sense? Okay. The last example that I am going to give you for contractions with de is, I'm going to give it to you in English. Let's see if you can do it. The neighbor's daughter has brown hair. So we're using all kinds of things that we've learned in this lesson. So see if you can get it. The neighbor's daughter has brown hair. Notice where my apostrophe is with neighbors. Okay, I'm sure you probably don't have anything yet, so if you don't, but you probably don't, pause the video, and when you're ready, hit play, and I'll explain it. Okay, so we need to use possession with de here, right? Because we have an apostrophe. Okay, so we need to say the daughter of the neighbors. Notice that this is plural, and then has brown hair. Okay, so the daughter, la fille, of the neighbors. Okay, so you have de plus les voisins, which is going to contract to give you des, la fille, des voisins a les cheveux. And do you remember what we use for hair color for brown? I hope you do. Châtain. You get it? Okay, so la fille des voisins, so de les contracts to give you des voisins, a les cheveux châtains. Okay, remember that châtain agrees in number and gender with the noun it modifies, which is les cheveux, not la fille. Okay. All right. I hope you got it. If you didn't, it's okay. We have plenty of time to practice. Okay. All right. So your book stops at the contractions with de, but you might as well learn the contractions with the preposition a, because they're very similar and, hey, it's useful. And you're going to have to learn it anyway, so you might as well learn it now. So, when a is followed by a definite article, again, it contracts except with la. So if you want to say to, at, or in, you're going to be using the preposition a. Okay? It's going to depend on your context, which one, which English equivalent you choose. Okay? So, à la, okay, a plus la doesn't contract, it's just à la. A plus le contracts to give you au, au. And then a plus les contracts to give you aux, o. Okay, so these two, a plus le and a plus les, are pronounced the same way, but they're spelled differently. O and o. Au and aux. Okay. So here are a couple of examples. Okay, I'll just give these to you. Okay, so if we want to say they are talking to the professors, we would say ils parlent au professeur. Okay, ils parlent au professeur. Okay, because you have parler à les professeurs, so it's going to contract to form au. Okay? All right, and then this one last example uses most of the vocabulary from this lesson, but there's one vocabulary word that you don't know. Okay? But here it is. Okay? The man marries the woman in church. Okay, so you know most of it except for church. Okay, so l'homme épouse la femme, and then church is église, which is feminine. Okay, so there isn't going to be any contraction. So à l'église. okay? Because this is really la, but because we have our vowel here, remember that we dropped the A and put an L apostrophe. Okay? So à la, no contraction. Okay? L'homme épouse la femme à l'église. Okay? There you have it. You've just learned about possessive adjectives and possession with de. Okay? So now it's going to be your turn to practice. Your sub has some activities that they've probably written on the board for you to practice. Okay? All right. Good luck.